Designing a proper crisis response. I have gone into the research already. I may bring that up. Increasing employment and income, being able to provide jobs, services, resources, the requirements for life, the human rights, and as I like to put it, grace equilibrium in the science of the factor phenomenon is like the grace of God, internal bliss, or actually reaching the level of internal as it is God is love. Designing a I may provide more of a crisis response design within time. For now, this is what I have. There are three types of homelessness: transitional, there's episodic, chronic, and hidden. Different ways of styles of homelessness in response, resource, and how we survive. There are certain limits to the human body, and they should not be surpassed. They should not be reached other than to advance healthily. Other than to advance healthily. And promote each other. 7 practical ways you can help people experiencing hopelessness. Donate cards to promote nearby shelters. Donate clothes, especially socks. Volunteering your time. Fundraise. Research your local candidates. Participate in your city's point in time count. In corporations to do with the response and factors along. Remember youth homelessness. That's hard to see when I met someone who had a house fire and their young ones were with them, and it must be challenging to provide at such a level without supports. We are in this together. What affects one affects a part of the world, and that's a part of the world which is affected. How do you give hope to homeless? Give hope, not just cash, not cash. To avoid enabling self-destructive behaviors, work with them in a way. Don't just give them cash or pocket change. Instead, look for ways to meet an immediate need, at the least. A bottle of water, a snack, or a pair of dry socks on a cold day. Then encouraging them to come to the mission to address their long-term needs and life goals. These are quotes. The Coalition to End Homelessness has 4 strategic directions which guide for a 5-year plan with 4 strategic priorities. This is from specifically Comox region. Number 1, to create additional housing and supports. Community collaboration, prevention, and education. Number 3, capacity building. Number 4, funding and fundraising in the way of getting together the collective energy and attention to make real change until there is not needed for that change to be. that's all for this. Hereforth is the rest of my project. I was in a group project, although I finished the entire essay. Ending Homelessness in the Comox Valley Resource Guide. There has been reported a thorough list of resources in the Comox Valley for homeless or those at risk who may have services from advocacy to legal help, crisis information and support, emergency assistance, emergency shelter, free food, free clothing, inside company and coffee, medical and healthcare, mental health and or substance use, and washroom or showers. Supplying easy to access information on where to find resources for essential requirements for survival, and opportune pathways for returning to sustainable society living. Since the opening of the Connect Center in 2020 on January 16th, nearly 7,000 visits of approximately 50 to 60 people daily have been around this shelter. Service in the Comox Valley Coalition to End Homelessness has committed providing services that are simple, reliable, and easily accessible to navigate for those in need of the provided efforts to support them. Since the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, with the closure of and reduction of many services, the Connect Center has provided ways to respond to the needs and protection of our most vulnerable population. Having strict health protocols and physical distancing measures for minimizing symptoms, along with screening and education. In partnership with the Comox Valley Division of Family Practice, reporting to now have a physician attending Connect regularly and aiding people on site. I was there today and we had the collective authorities come to region the planning for continued response as best as we're able to. We still need help, though the hope of seeing how well people come together is heartwarming in a way. Although the challenges are still continuing. The Connect Center has provided ways to respond to the needs and protection of most vulnerable population, having strict widespread stigma surrounds the homeless. Sometimes I have experienced it myself, as I lived in two different places. I ended up moving from here, BC, back to Ontario. I've only been without home in Ontario. Some nights in Toronto with nowhere to go, and along these lines. Widespread, like I kind of mentioned, quote, they are often seen as dirty, deviant, or immoral, which makes them more isolated and vulnerable in the way of healthy relationships. Without healthy family and friends, they merge into one, and your friends and family are your family and friends. we have ways, although all together, as is and is as is. You can check my relationship guide to levels of relationships and healthy relationship circles, along with the levels of trust that associate and element uh, further on my channel. Public education campaigns to diffuse negative attitudes about the homeless are required for society as a whole to improve. It makes homeless more It makes homeless more prone to be targets and verbally abused to subjects of violence. Um, Having the inspiration of my grandfather's imprint on the area of Windsor and the 7 founding fathers. Although stigma may have been in some areas irrelated, unless maybe proven otherwise, but reality is, it had effect, and it had an effect. Uncovering the human dimensions of the drug poisoning crisis in small BC communities. Not including that. There's the Walk With Me team in the area. There are a few very well done efforts, and with the right attention we can actually have less people suffering, especially on the way into another winter. I was only homeless in the winter, but I at least only homeless in the winter, although with help and ways, it was only so challenging. Not that it in any way wasn't, though worth for what it is worth. Beyond basic needs of resource like any other is right to. Amongst homelessness there is often attribution with drug usage or affiliation, though not always. The attempts and influences of decriminalization and legalization as an extension in response to the drug poisoning crisis, as being able to provide safer drugs is better than worse drugs, although they are still not entirely healthy drugs as a standpoint. Although with enough of the right kind of force, you may still be able to heal. The act of decriminalizing drugs for personal use is associated with destigmatization and subsequently enables people normally may hide addiction to seek help. Being able to actually get the help required is one of the biggest steps, as even if you want to and it's not there provided, it's hard to go out and reach without guidance. And I've lost too many as well. Friends, family, and influences. Providing safe supply as much may be controversial, and the enabling essence, though without cross supply, it reduces chance of drug poisoning on those working out. Most people don't want to be on these drugs. Most of the opioid and various stimulants have psychologically effective side effects, which are challenging to reach through. Though making some feel a type of sickness, making for a revolving door, as getting the right help is ultimately the latter way through. Safe supply is widely seen as a necessity in response to the rising drug poisoning rates. Although that is still in the best direction, and the way I see it is this isn't an option that we really need. It's not doing enough to help, it's not helping, and as much as a poison may not be something that harms, this is something that harms, also variously in their ways. It started off with methadone as ways to get off of drugs, though still with methadone there are side effects. It was only thing available, and there was oversight by the college back in the beginning of it. There was a point where some patients are actually being harmed with these prescriptions. God, that's so cool. Ultimately, the individuals ended up going on the streets, which magnified the problem, looking for these drugs when they were not being supplied, and finding street drugs, which inevitably became something that was lesser practiced among the Now, a newer problem emerged in the last few years with fentanyl being introduced. The college basically withdrew from the oversight. There is no more college monitoring, which could be good and bad, meaning opioids by themselves are not safe. Opioids are not prescribed without segment of the population, but also causing a lot of harm. Dr. A. kindly. I don't promote fentanyl, nor any of the harming chemical compounds. I originally, and even in my school, studied the effects of methamphetamine, and swore never to do it. Although even in the elements of being careful, as it was just M at first, which is not the same thing. Stigma. Reports of numerous participants state the stigma has been identified as a key barrier preventing those with addiction seeking help in the medical health system from getting the support they need to rejoin and sustain in society. A regressive form of social behavior is often found with those under stigma, resultingly referring to as isolation or being socially degenerated, dismissed in a manner that may not be promotive. I have personally done this in my own ways, as I tried to help and ended up going nocturnal out of wanting to make it easier on them, although they inevitably term stigma and Webster's the term stigma and Webster's dictionary is defined as a mark of shame or discredit. It's a referendum of Greek word that used to describe markings or tattoos, branding burned or cut into the skin of criminals, traitors, or slaves historically. Accounting for this knowledge brings a several association Accounting for this knowledge brings a serial association to the world with notions of the concept of an outcast and reaches to the level of disenfranchisement, disdain, and othering objectification experienced by the substance using community or otherwise patronized. A quote by participant Evan Mayo, with lived experience, illustrates how stigma has a power may be dehumanizing as an aspect of the drug-using community. I think first and foremost, we need to get this dehumanization thing completely eradicated. We don't need the people who are comfortable with money and a place to live and all the modern trappings of life to realize that they are just systematically taking the easy way out. What the hell? Viewing people as people anymore, the people on the streets, because they can treat them like trash that they feel, is the people that strew about, is what he said. And you can't treat them like trash. It's just you reaching out and your ability to identify and help. As a person of personal experience, these words bring strong insight into the feelings of rejection and disconnection of people with lived experience through stigmatization. Those stigma may be socially provided options, and some may approach it differently, unintentionally. It makes no less dehumanizing as people unwanted and treated as less than or as trash. In healthcare, the impact of stigma is evident from many domains, as the dehumanizing may be diagnosed and properly assessed with and through the healthcare system. Also, numerous participants note the length of which they will go to avoid accessing medical services in responses to drug poisoning, as their concerned scientifically provided side effects to many pharmaceutical options and cures. Having an actual healthy and impeccable way to get off these drugs that give withdrawals is a mission in itself. Not only are our users often afraid to call for help after drug poisoning, some hold a strong fear of entering into engaged with hospitals or CPR or counteractive effects of naloxone, causing damages such as brain or experienced trauma. The destigmatization is paralleled to racism in its concept dynamic of participants and their increase of a holistic, culturally sensitive approach to health and wellness. Interaction with health and criminal justice system, especially relation to hospitals. Not to promote fearing though, to get the help. They are help, servers, and supplies, resources there for us and them. Community leaders may apply knowledge of factual processes and procedures for promoting health in a more completely healthy manner for all involved. The increase of holistic, culturally sensitive approach to health and wellness are being more popularly promoted in the efforts to ensure more preventability as well as productive promotive care for those in need who want to better for their life and community. Community leaders may apply knowledge of factual processes and procedures for promoting health in a more completely healthy manner for all involved. Some of my practices correlate that throughout, including the message in my music, as I've had most from before and some from after. It aims to help. Services include crisis lines, warming shelters, showers, washrooms, healthcare support, housing support, harm reduction, food, financial support, transportation, and other services. Key points of how we accomplish these priorities. We work with a wheelhouse of housing options to address homelessness. We believe in the power of collaboration and partnership. We use a preventative, client-based approach. We use a platform to eradicate, increase public awareness, and build community. We make funding recommendations for the Comox Valley Regional District Homeless Support Service Fund. Key findings: people are struggling. There is a severe lack of studio units available. There is a disparity between renters and homeowners. The private housing market alone cannot meet housing needs. Non-market housing and support are needed. In 2020, 132 people were identified as experiencing homelessness compared to 117 in 2018. 44% sheltered, 55% unsheltered. 30% 30% outside, 27% couch surfing, 24% makeshift shelter tent. Age breakdown: 14% youth under 15, 14% 14% under 25, 14% youth under 25, 69% adults 25 to 54, 17% senior 55 and plus. 40% experienced homelessness for the first time as a youth. 30% had been in foster care, a youth camp, home, or under a youth agreement. Gender: 59% man, 35% woman, 6% another identity. Sexual orientation: 13% of respondents identified as 2 SLGBTQIA+. Racial identity: 30% Black, 2% South Asian, 1% Latin American 1% not listed. Indigenous Indigenous identity, 20% of the respondents identified as indigenous. Wow. Indigenous identity, 20% of the respondents identified as indigenous compared to 6% of the general population, 2016 consensus. Health concerns, 49% conditional, 48% physical disability, 50% mental health issue, 57% addiction, 32% learning disability, 33% reported brain injury, 68 reported 2 or more health concerns, length of time homeless, 33% under 6 months, 53% 1 year or more, 78% of respondents had been in the community for at least 1 year, 55% of respondents had been in the community 10 years or more. Reasons for housing loss, 34% not enough income, 24% substance use, 24% substance use issue, 20% mental health issue. Income, 96% indicated one or more sources of income, 45% income assistance, 37% disability benefit, 24% bottle collection, 13% panhandling, service access, 75% food services, emergency, 55% emergency room, 52% housing service. There has been significant investment in fundraising for contributions to create additional housing and necessary support in the showing positive results for those wanting to help. This is all I have. Resources. For all foremost essentials and needs, there has been put together an easy to navigate guide at https://cvhousing.ca/resources or refer to local sourced guidance at health services. Beyond the basic. Alternatively, beyond the basic needed resources of anyone, unfortunately, amongst homelessness, there is also often associated with drug use or affiliation, emerged efforts or decriminalization and potential legalization as an extension. There have been new bills passed throughout. I can't say I fully promote the safe supplies and ability to carry on the one, though getting the right direction is better than any other. Then in the last few years, this is all I have for my current standing. I may continue with further resource planning if I don't find any better already. Thank you for your time. I hope this brings consideration and account for how much helps when someone may actually be able to get the help they want, need, deserve, and may be able to provide to the community in a healthy, healed, maybe even strengthened with the right healing and the right procedure of sustainability. That's all for now. Until the next, all the best. Namaste. Peace be with you. Live long and prosper, righteously and carefully. Peace to the best.